A lot of combat in D&D and TTRPGs has become heavily influenced by video games, right? And a lot of our players will be thinking in the sense of, I have to go in there and I have to defeat all of the enemies because I am the powerful hero and I need the good experience and loot. So once you start getting higher level in D&D, especially, it becomes quite broken. It's very unstable and the players become ungodly powerful, especially around level 8 or 9. So when you have these things, this person's asked if I had any other thoughts. I did mention before of like having the ability to save civilians. The monsters are attacking a town, you got to save all the civilians, saving somebody who's been kidnapped. Having environmental effects going on, like you're fighting at a volcano. Lava is like bursting out everywhere. There's other things you can do. Timed sort of situations are really good. So let's say that you're like in a room and the room is slowly closing. So every round the room gets closer and closer. You know, that classic moment. Or having traps go off every certain round. Enemy reinforcements coming in, different types of enemies. Having creatures that actually can't be harmed. And the players have to find creative solutions of capturing them, trapping them, or even trying to talk them down. You know, utilizing the different abilities that these players have, because D&D is a combat system primarily. It has role-playing capabilities in it that are fairly good, and it has abilities for like conversation, but a lot of it's built around combat. So this really makes you sort of think out of the box and what you want to do. When we watch a lot of shows where the characters are struggling against a really powerful villain and the characters have become incredibly powerful themselves, think about what those villains do to force the heroes to kind of like take a step back. They threaten things that the heroes don't have the ability to protect because they're too far away from, or they didn't even think about protecting it, or the villain stole something from them. So your players are put in this situation where they can't go all out. You could have moments like that. You could have the classic, there's a type of enemy in one campaign that I was running, Call of the Netherdeep, where it is a jellyfish that'll grab a player, lift them up, and petrify them and use them as a human shield. So any damage that actually goes to the jelly hits the human shield first. Having these little things there in combat really forces your players to stop, sit back, and realize, I can't just fireball, sorcerer point, fireball, you know, like just keep going. So what you have to do is really just think about what you see in different elements of storytelling, how they change combat from just like punching each other to being these moments of intense role-playing and story. Have those monologue moments when somebody's like, but a session, like your turn's only supposed to be 6 seconds. Who cares? Have your villain monologue a little bit on their turn and then, you know, do things. Leave the monologue on a bit of a cliffhanger so the players want to know what the villain has to say so they can't take them out right away. You know, there's all sorts of little things that you can be doing. Hell, just throw people into like dream realms, shadow realms in the middle of combat. Separate the party, have enemies that are utilized specifically against their weaknesses and separate them. Even, you know, maybe use illusions. Nobody ever uses illusions enough, and make the party look like the enemy to one another and switch all the characters around on the board. And then the party has to start fighting and figure out who's your ally, who's your enemy, and everybody's speaking in different strange garbled tongues. You know, so you just have to get really creative with it. Steal ideas from media, realize that it's not just a big brawl, because if you do just a big brawl with high-level D&D characters, it's boring, and they just sort of steamroll everything, and it's never really a challenge. Utilize the story, the people, the environment against them, so then they have to think about how they're going to go into this fight.